So I've had the iPhone 16 Pro Max for almost 6 months already, and it's been, well, pretty excellent actually. I've really enjoyed the battery life, the reduced bezels, and just the overall camera setup. It's been great, really good battery life as well. Doesn't have too many heat issues. But a month later, with the new Galaxy S25 Ultra, has it overtaken that phone and been the better device? That's what we're going to find out here in this 1 month later comparison between the S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and today we're going to take a look at the iPhone 16 Pro Max versus the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Now, I've had both of these phones since they launched. This one I actually had a little bit before it launched, and I want to give you my full-blown experience, my thoughts, and this is not going to be really objective. This is going to be more subjective, my take. We'll start with the price. First of all, my preferred phone for the price up front is obviously going to be the Samsung. Usually get better discounts, usually get it much cheaper than the iPhone, and at the same time, it's still pretty competitive with the iPhone. So a lot of people would say better. So this, to me, from just a pure price perspective, I think usually comes out to be a better deal for your dime when you do go ahead and get a Galaxy S25 Ultra, because most people are not going to pay the full retail. On the flip side, you're going to pay the full retail for the iPhone. And it does have its worth in one area. It holds its resale value much better long term. So if you do want to keep this phone for a longer term period, I do think it'll hold its value better in that respect. So if you're keeping it long term, the iPhone is probably the better choice. But the Samsung S25 Ultra still holds its value pretty well as well, because they've been getting more popular, and they're also really high-end phones. So you'll still get a good discount on your next trade-in either way you go. But for the price value, I think the Samsung has won. When it comes to the better build quality, I actually think the iPhone feels a little bit nicer in terms of like build quality, mostly because I like those camera rings a little bit better than on the Samsung over there. In addition, I find that my Samsung screen, if I don't put a screen protector, scratches quicker than the iPhone. I don't know why that is, but it just happened to me in the past. So now I don't even mess around anymore. But from the edges, the sides, they basically have the same titanium build. I also don't really like this as much on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. I don't like this 5G antenna. I like the placement, but I don't like that I could see it. On the iPhone, I don't see it anywhere. It's kind of like hidden into the design. So from just a pure build quality standpoint, I kind of like the iPhone a little bit more. It feels nice in the hand as well. But the Samsung is my favorite Android phone in this department. In terms of just materials, it just feels top of the line as well. And it's so darn close. I literally only gave the iPhone the victory because I've had a little bit more easier scratching happening on my Samsungs in the past. So I'll revisit this again in a year and see how this phone held up. But as of now, I think the iPhone just feels a little sturdier, just slightly. Not a lot, but very, very slightly. So it's very close. When it comes to ergonomics, I do prefer the shape. After a month using it, even though the Samsung has improved, it's still not quite as nice to hold as the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But in terms of its shape, the corners on the 16 Pro Max are nice. And I'm guessing I'm an S25 Plus like that's probably what I should try out if I'm talking that right there. I'm planning on getting one to see how that one feels. But the Galaxy S25 Ultra is a massive improvement over the S24 Ultra with its corners. They're much smoother now, and the flat edges are much nicer to hold. However, it's wide and still a little bit more rectangular, so I do feel like while it does have a unique look by comparison to the 16 Pro Max, the phone's still slightly not as comfortable to hold in the corners. However, where it does strike back over the iPhone 16 Pro Max is it's lighter, so that's why this area is basically a draw for me, because this is lighter, but this is more smooth on the corners. So I think the S25 Plus would probably be the perfect feel in the hand of these two right here. It would even be better than this phone right here. So I think I'm going to review that one soon. Let me know if you have an S25 Plus. What do you think of its build, its thinness, its lightness? I like to know your thoughts down below. So after a month, I've really been going back and forth with the displays and deciding which one I think is actually the better panel. But I keep coming back to the Samsung for being the better panel. The iPhone has really great color reproduction. It's nice and saturated, but not overly so. I don't like dynamic island when I look at it next to the S25 Ultra. You kind of forget about it when you're using it, but still, I'm not a fan of that shape up there. I just want this to be all screen, but you can see that with its reduced bezels, it's got really nice colors. True Tone's on right now, can make it really easy on the eye, and it's very smooth with its ProMotion effects and stuff of that sort. Very good viewing angles, but a lot more glossy and glare on this phone. So with that being said, when I pick up the S25 Ultra, one of the things that strikes me immediately is sharper text. I can definitely notice it. This QHD panel, which is also something you could change if you go to display settings, is pretty noticeable. This QHD plus resolution here, pretty noticeable. Also, because this has similarly reduced bezels, there's some glare on the iPhone, because this has similarly reduced bezels, it doesn't really feel that much different picking this up in terms of that aspect. Also, we have a really small punch hole, and one thing you might not know is that Samsung's S25 Ultra has one of the smallest punch holes in the business. So if you're looking for a very small one, phones that compete with this usually have bigger punch hole displays. On top of that, the color reproduction is pretty good as well. You have vivid modes, natural modes, and you have a little bit more settings you can play around with and tweak. You can also do some color corrections with the iPhone and accessibility. But on the whole, I just think this display stands above the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I wouldn't say it blows it away. It's not that much better. But the anti-glare in the sharper text and having like closer to an all screen because of smaller punch hole versus dynamic, it just pushes it over the edge for me over the iPhone. And every time I pick it up, I'm like, yeah, this display just looks better, hands down. It's just a better display. It's also a little bit better for media because when you turn it sideways, this phone is actually more of a nice holding, like kind of like little widescreen TV in your hand. So this thing to me is the better media phone as well. Now from a software perspective, if you like simple and you like polish, I'm still going the iPhone. Now I know Samsung is really polished with One UI 7, but it's still a little more advanced. I don't think it's the easiest to use by comparison. iOS can be a little bit convoluted as well with the lack of back gestures and extra steps to do things. But when it comes to like granular controls and features, there's to me a lot more in the Samsung, buried a little bit deeper in the software, but it's still very simple, and most people know how to use Galaxy, are going to know how to use this phone very easily. I will say that One UI 7 is still the best to me for Android phones because it has basically everything every other Android phone has and then some. It also has the best AI suite of features I feel like out there. I actually like the AI better on the Samsung than on Apple's side. Apple's side feels more beta right now. Samsung's feels more ready to go. In addition, I've actually tried the audio eraser feature. I like this feature better than their audio erasing on the iPhone, which had it first, but I think it works better on this phone for some reason. It just seems to do a better job with blocking out that audio, although that one's pretty good. Overall, just the suite of AI just feels better. In addition, you can use the S Pen on this phone software, which also has some software with it. Of course, it lost the BLE features, but it still has that over the iPhone either way. The iPhone don't even have a pen. So I gotta say, this software is everything in the kitchen sink. It remains that way. They are taking away the BLE Bluetooth S Pen, which is a little annoying because you're paying top dollar, but it's still a Samsung phone, so it's still loaded with software. If you want better updates and simpler software, I do think iPhone is still that. Also, some of the apps just look better on the iPhone. It's as if the developers developed them better. I'm not talking about the mainstream apps. Most of the mainstream apps work fine. But as you start getting into, a little bit more deep, like you download more and more apps, you're going to find some of them just don't seem as well developed on the Samsung. But both of them are just really good overall at software. It's really down to, do you want features? Do you want everything in the kitchen sink? Or do you want to have just a simpler software set on the iPhone? I also would still go here for customization, although you do have some here on the iPhone with the tweaking of the icons and such. And 1 month later, I've been going back and forth on performance, but in terms of my speed tests, but it's pretty clear. The Samsung is winning. It feels faster day to day, and I understand people have been saying, oh, it throttles if you push it hard into gaming. I don't care. Day to day, this phone flies through every single task. And one of the things I've been really noticing where it's slightly better to me over the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the connectivity. Weirdly enough, the Wi-Fi and the 5G seems to be faster on this phone and more reliable to me, like when it comes to the performance of that. Along with the 8 Elite chipset, Samsung has went to town this year on this phone. And while it might not look like a massive upgrade on the surface, underneath what's powering this baby, this thing flies very reliably quick. So if you want a reliable connectivity performer, super fast blazing chip, and you want more RAM, 12 gigs versus 8 gigs, the Samsung wins. But that doesn't make this phone slow. It's just the way iOS moves along. Visually, it's trying to be smooth, trying to be pleasing to the user, which is very respectable. And I do like it a lot of the times, especially if I'm just casually browsing or something. I really like how the iPhone kind of moves along. It's just really smooth. It's not super blazing fast, overwhelming. It just glides. I just had a nice had a nice lunch, and then I just go ahead and swipe slowly through my news and go into the apps and just slowly scroll through here. But if I want to get things done, the Samsung, man, this thing just boom, just like vertical app drawer. Your brain's just like, I know where that is, alphabetically sorted, just boom, you're just in there. Things are just quick on this phone. So that's how I feel about both of them. Let's talk about the cameras. First of all, both of these boys need to do something different here. You know, they look the same as the past 3 years, like generally speaking. Let's go ahead and change up our designs for once. Tired of my phone looking like the year before phone and the year before that phone. So like, it's time to do something different here. But at the end of the day, I gotta say that it's kind of that same old argument that I've been experiencing over the past couple of years. iPhone's still gonna be my pick for video. If I go over here, it's so smooth and easy. It has great modes, like, you know, it has some pro modes in here, and you have raw modes and portrait, and you have cinematic and slow-mo and spatial video. And the front-facing camera has been the same for about 15 years. No, I'm kidding. Like probably like 5 years. Hasn't changed massively. And you have great applications in the App Store for camera because, like I said earlier, developers do develop a lot of nice apps for the iPhone. So you can go to town with downloading cameras and taking really great advantage. At the end of the day, I feel like the iPhone is still a very tried and true performer here, especially in the area of video and pretty good photos, although skin tones are going to be subjective. Samsung, though, to me, it's the same as it's been before for me. It's still the more versatile setup. It still has great zoom, blowing the iPhone out of the water in zoom. I like how they moved the controls lower as well. It makes it easier to operate as camera. And if I go to more, I like how we have Expert RAW, Pro, Panoramic. I like this food mode as well to take pictures of food, like if you're a foodie. That's pretty cool. And dual record is awesome as well. That's just something you can't do on the iPhone. Also, adding log is letting people know that Samsung is not playing when it comes to this whole Expert RAW stuff. So you can do log video and things of that sort. This thing is just loaded. I mean, it really is with the features. One thing I will say, though, is that the video quality is also particularly better for some people as well. You have 8K recording. You can't even do that on an iPhone. But the front-facing camera also, to me, looks smoother. I like the pictures better from the Samsung. At the end of the day, both these phones are neck and neck. It's really going to come down to which one you prefer, how the pictures look on each. It still has that similar, softer look to me on the Samsung phone, but more granular control, more versatility in the camera setup, but the iPhone is still doing good on simple video. I pick the Samsung if you want a more all-around, every feature in a kitchen sink, top-of-the-line camera. I'm going to Samsung. But if you want a simpler, just really reliable, tried and true performer, I think you'll be fine here as well. When it comes to battery life, on paper, you would think the Samsung is much better, but I find that the iPhone lasts a little bit longer in actual use for me. But that depends on the type of use. Like just generally using it, text messaging, phone calls, browsing the web, both of these are going all day long and then some. I just find the iPhone has a little bit better standby to me, and it stays at 100 longer when I charge it up to 100. This one goes down to 90 fast, and then after 90 it slows down. Either way, Samsung can charge faster and last the whole day and then some as well. Something I couldn't say about older Samsung, so they really stepped it up here with these newer phones. iPhone 16 Pro Max was one of the best battery life phones since iPhone 13 Pro Max, which was an absolute king. So 1 month later, I would personally pick, if you're asking me for battery life, the iPhone for actual usage. But I'm going to pick the Samsung for the all-around pick here. Like if I was to say this is the better option because of the charging, it's just faster to charge. So while I do get a little bit longer use time on my particular type of use, the Samsung charges quicker, so it kind of makes up for it. So I would choose between that. You know, do you want the faster charging? That's the Samsung right there. So I didn't cover audio. Both of them are pretty matched up evenly there as well. You do have a Dolby Atmos mode in here as well, which can really kind of tweak depending on the type of audio you're doing, movie, music, voice, or you can leave it in automatic mode. Wrapping it up here, both have USB-C. Neither has an IR blaster like some Chinese competitors. Objectively speaking, I think Samsung wins this battle after a month, of using this and having that phone. I think it wins this battle from a usability perspective. But there's a lock-in effect that I don't think is going to sway a lot of iPhone users. People have been using iPhones for years. They have all of their money invested in certain applications, things in those apps. They're not going to leave for this. Just like last year, they weren't going to leave for that Samsung. I'm sure a lot of them appreciate it, but there's a lock-in effect to iOS. There's also a lock-in effect to Android. If you've been using this a long time, people are not going to be easily swayed. Some people who are open-minded or have more of a cross-platform setup going for themselves with their ecosystems will easily be able to probably want to switch. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that these are super tight competitors right here. But if I had to say one was better after a month later, I have to give it to the Samsung here. I do think it outshines the iPhone 16 Pro Max. We'll have to see, though, how good the 17 Pro Max is, though, because this phone is not like destroying the 16 Pro Max. It's just like a little bit better. So I think this might be Apple's year. We'll have to see later this year if they really go to town on the 17 Pro Max, because Samsung didn't really like massively overhaul the S series. So Apple has a chance to blow us away and actually take the crown over this one later this year. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts on which one you prefer and which one you would pick down below in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.